Hola, buenos días. Mi nombre es Adelina. Good morning. My name is Adeline. I have served gratefully as Vice President of the Board of Trustees over this past year. I am excited to begin my term as President starting on Wednesday, June 1st. Bienvenido a la Iglesia Unitaria Universalista de Fresno, California. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno, California. Welcome to everyone on our virtual campus. Welcome to everyone here on our Alluvial Church campus. We are one congregation in many places. Somos una congregación en muchos lugares. We pause and acknowledge that our Alluvial Avenue Church campus sits within the traditional homelands of the Yokuts and Mono peoples. We understand that this land holds immense significance for its original stewards, the Native nations and peoples of this region. As Unitarian Universalists, we welcome you no matter your race, culture of origin, age, spiritual background, or religious beliefs. We welcome you no matter your disabilities, the amount of money in your bank account, your level of education, or your neurodiversity. You are welcome with or without documentation. Son bienvenidos con papeles y sin papeles. No human being is illegal at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno. As Unitarian Universalists, we not only open our doors to people of all sexual orientations and gender identities, we value diversity of sexuality and gender and see it as a spiritual gift. Todos son bienvenidos aquí. If you are on our virtual campus, we want to make sure everyone can share in your joy, sorrow, or gratitude. Type those now in the chat box. This is the moment to type your joy, sorrow, concern, or gratitude, and we'll write them down and give them to Tim so he can include them later in the service. If you don't do it now in the chat box, we won't have time to include them. Our worship theme for this month is Nurturing Beauty. We are honored today to have with us a musical artist who nurtures the beauty of music here in Fresno and around the world. It is a joy and pleasure to welcome Ray Hotoda, the beloved music director of the Fresno Philharmonic. We celebrate your astounding talent and your ability to guide and inspire musicians as they create music together. If you are on our virtual campus and would like to welcome Ray Hotoda, please type W for welcome in the chat box. Now let's take a moment to say buenos dias and greet one another.
even as we begin and prepare to celebrate the extraordinary beauty that music brings into our lives, let us also remember that without the silences, there would be no music.
One, two, three, four.
Don't you feel it growing day by day? People getting ready for the news. Some are happy, some are sad. Oh, gotta let the music play. What the people need is a way to make them smile. It ain't so hard if you know how. Gotta get a message, get it on through. Oh, and don't ask me why. Oh, listen to the music. Oh, listen to the music. Oh, listen to the music all the time. When I know you, baby, everything I say, meet me in the country for a day. We'll be happy and we'll dance. Oh, we're gonna dance the blues away. And if I'm feeling good to you and you're feeling good to me, there ain't nothing we can't do or say. Feeling good, feeling fine. Oh, gonna let the music play. Oh, listen to the music. Oh, listen to the music. Oh, listen to the music all the time. Like a lazy flowing river, surrounding castles in the sky. And the crowd is growing bigger. Listen to the happy sounds. I got to let them fly. Oh, listen to the music. Oh, listen to the music. Oh, listen to the music all the time. Oh, listen to the music. Oh, listen to the music. Oh, listen to the music all the time. Oh, listen to the music. Oh, listen to the music. Oh, listen to the music all the time.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist dance party of Fresno. One of the things that I truly love about watching Ray conduct the Fresno Philharmonic is how she embodies the music and uses her body to just create art. And so we felt like today we're going to be using our body a little bit as well in celebration of Ray. But first, we have to light the chalice. All world religions have a symbol that tell us something about that religion, tell us something about that faith. Unitarian Universalism's symbol is the flaming chalice. It contains many meanings, but the one I'd like us to focus today is what I see when I look at that bowl of the chalice. I imagine it's two hands cupped to receive the blessings of the universe. Could you just all do that for a moment? So there's some faiths that teach there's only a little bit of blessing, there's only a certain amount of love in the universe, and it's only going to go to a certain person who believes a certain thing or looks a certain way. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe that the blessings of creation are for all of us and that it is unlimited. But we also know we live in a world where that's not necessarily a reality. So Unitarian Universalism also calls on us to do the deep spiritual work of transforming our own hearts so that they can expand to hold more love, hold more gratitude, hold more hope. And then we take those hands, those cupped hands, we join them together, and we go out and we try to change the world, because it's not just about us. It's about we. And so for the we that we hope will one day be the world, we light our chalice. So our song of praise is going to invite more movement if you would like. If your fingers and your elbows are a little tired at this point, you're welcome to just sing or move any way you want. But the motion is going to be a snap, and then it's going to be a tap of the heart. So it's almost like that spark of divine love or human love, and you bring it right into the heart. So it's going to go something like this. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. And then we'll just continue. So don't worry, it's not about being perfect. It's about just being you. So let's rise and body our spirit as stolen thunder takes us. We rise.
1, 2, 3, 4. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. We rise, humbly hearted, rise. We won't be divided, rise. With spirit to guide us, rise. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. We rise. All of the children rise. Elders with wisdom rise. Ancestors around us rise. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. We rise. Up from the wreckage, rise. With tears and with courage, rise. Fighting for life, rise. In hope, in prayer we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here.
Please remain standing as we say together the words of our church covenant. El amor es la doctrina de esta iglesia, la búsqueda de la verdad es su sacramento y el servicio es su oración. Habitar juntos en paz, buscar la verdad con libertad y servir a la humanidad juntos, con el fin de que todas las almas puedan crecer en armonía con lo divino. Esto es lo que pactamos unos con otros. We affirm that love is a doctrine of this church, the quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. We strive to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other. Please be seated. So just let that seat hold you for a minute. So just sink in. Let yourself be held by something greater than yourself. The beloved Vietnamese Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh taught us well about the power of our human breath, which is perhaps the most potent spiritual tool and spiritual practice that we possess. Our breath, it can center us, focus us, calm us, renew us, allow us to access our reserve supply of resilience. This is one of my favorite Thich Nhat Hanh's teaching. It's one I remembered multiple times in the difficult week we have lived through. Breath. Breath is the bridge which connects life to consciousness, which unites your body to your thoughts. Whenever your mind becomes scattered, use your breath as the means to take hold of your mind again. And so, in that spirit, I invite us together to take in a breath, imagining we breathe in peace. We hold for just a moment. We breathe out love. And again, taking in a breath, we breathe in peace. We hold the moment. We breathe out love. And one last time, breathing in peace. We hold the moment. We breathe out love. We continue breathing together on our virtual campus here on Alluvial Ave campus. And imagine for just a moment that that breath could take you back over the last week, the last 7 days of your living. Over those 7 days, what did you experience? What sorrows, joys, concerns? What in the last 7 days may you feel grateful for? And as we rest in the week that has been, a question. In the last week, what was the source of your resilience, strength, or courage? So wherever we are, wherever we find ourselves on this Sunday morning, we bring into the sacred space all that we experienced in this last week. We carry with us joys, sorrows, concerns, and gratitudes. Some of us stop at the small table at the entranceway to the sanctuary and write those down on a small card. Others type them in the chat box on our virtual campus. And this is some of what is alive among us. And collectively, I know that we grieve the deaths in yet another mass shooting in this country, this time in a Texas elementary school. Yet again, an 18-year-old with a military assault rifle butchered children and adults in a hideous and horrifying attack on innocent life. Let us be clear. Military assault rifles have one purpose only: to kill people, as many as possible, as quickly as possible. Gun safety laws that prevent the sale of military-style weapons to civilians, laws that require background checks, and laws that raise the age of access to guns are three ways to prevent this immoral epidemic of gun violence and death. The sin of silence and inaction from so many elected officials condemns more children and adults to death. Let us hold a long moment of silence together. And from the congregation, Lisa and Jamie are feeling a gratitude that Lisa's mom is visiting today from Utah. Welcome. It's so wonderful to have you with us. Welcome. Connie is feeling a gratitude and a joy. Her youngest granddaughter, Catherine, graduated from Fresno State last weekend. I'm one proud grandma. Valerie and Steve on our virtual campus are celebrating a great joy. Tristan, Emily, and Abby Kaizinga welcome their new family member, Miles. Born Thursday morning, they are happy to be grandparents. And Steve and Valerie, we send our love. Tristan and Emily, Abby, and newborn Miles. Miles, welcome to this world. Your life is a blessing. Christine on our virtual campus, her friend Mrs. Robinson, 86 years old, joy and gratitude for all my friends, old and young. Chris here in the Alluvial campus is grateful, I think, for 18 cubic feet per second of water flowing in the San Joaquin River today. Beautiful. And Christine C. on our virtual campus, two concerns: U.S. laws and regulations that have never been corrected, and a concern children who are victims of these never-ending wars. We also today grieve the loss of Ruby, a beloved animal companion who brought such joy and left so many happy memories to a member of our congregation. We remember, too, our beloved church members and friends who are living with health challenges, compromised mobility, and other things that impact their well-being. We lift up Edith H., William H., Laura G., Molly K., Glenda R., Pat M., Al G., Brandon E., and Josephine J. On this Memorial Day weekend, we honor those who served in our nation's military and lost their lives in that service. If the loved one or friend was killed in the line of duty, we invite you to rise for a moment or raise your hand or type that name in the chat box, and then we will hold a moment of silence to honor the name or names that you hold in your heart. So if a family member or a loved one was killed in the line of military service, please rise. We honor these lives. Please be seated. This month, we also end our celebration of Asian American Pacific Islander Month, recognizing the rich cultural gifts that have enhanced our country, even as we acknowledge the rising incidence of anti-Asian hate in our country. If you'd like to celebrate on our virtual campus Asian American Pacific Islander Month, please type AAPI in the chat box. As I know is also alive in our hearts, this week marked the second anniversary of George Floyd's murder by law enforcement officers. His slow execution by asphyxiation ignited a summer of racial reckoning that lifted up the disregard for and demonization of Black bodies and Black people. People such as #say her name, Breonna Taylor, and so many other names through the years, decades, and centuries. Lastly, we grieve that this week, Oklahoma imposed the strictest anti-abortion, anti-woman, pro-forced parenthood law in the country. A country where women's bodies are more regulated than guns. For all that has been shared, for all that we hold in the sacredness of our own hearts, we light our candle of community. As is our custom, we light a second candle for the 6.29 million citizens of the world who have lost their lives in this pandemic, and we acknowledge over 1 million of them are citizens of the United States of America. As our candles burn, as our hearts grieve, let us join in our call to meditation. Comfort me.
2, 3, 4. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Consuélame, 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 oh mi alma. Consuélame, 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 oh mi alma. Speak to me, speak to me, speak to me, oh my soul. Speak to me, speak to me, speak to me, oh my soul. Háblame, 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 oh mi alma. Háblame, 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 oh mi alma. comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul.
Our words of reflection and prayer come from the passionate and eloquent heart of poet and activist Amanda Gorman. These words were published in the New York Times on Friday, written in the wake of the slaughter in that elementary school. Amanda Gorman's words are entitled Hymn for the Hurting. Let us join together in reflection or prayer. Spirit of life, fuente de amor, divine and human light of our own heart's understanding. Everything hurts. Our hearts shadowed and strange, minds made muddied and mute. We carry tragedy, terrifying and true, and yet none of it is new. We knew it as home, as horror, as heritage. Even our children cannot be children, cannot be. Everything hurts. It's a hard time to be alive, and even harder to stay that way. We're burdened to live out these days while at the same time blessed to outlive them. This alarm is how we know we must be altered, that we must differ or die, that we must triumph or try. Thus, while hate cannot be terminated, it can be transformed into a love that lets us live. May we not just grieve, but give. May we not just ache, but act. May our signed right to bear arms never blind our sight from shared harm. May we choose our children over chaos. May another innocent never be lost. Maybe everything hurts, our hearts shadowed and strange. But only when everything hurts. May everything change. Que así sea, bendito sea. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen. When times are hard, we do turn to music. Sometimes music without words, sometimes music with words that fill our hearts with strength and hope. I invite us to rise in body or spirit as we join our voices in singing, "How Can I Keep from Singing?"
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My life goes on in endless song above earth's lamentations. I hear the real though far off hymn that hails the new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear its music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? While though the tempest loudly roars, I hear the truth it liveth. And though the shadows around me close, songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love prevails in heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? In prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them are winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing?
Please be seated. We're going to give a moment for the band to step off the chancel, and let's just hear it for the band. Conductor Ray Hotoda has been hailed as an inexhaustible dynamo with a deep commitment to reimagining the 21st century concert experience. So says Ray's official bio. Her vision can be seen through her thought-provoking programming, passionate allyship to marginalized artists, advocacy for arts education, and an unwavering commitment to presenting the music of our times. Her amazing success as the music director of the Fresno Philharmonic since 2017 has resulted in the extension of her tenure through the 2025 season. As a champion of today's living composers and as an artist that is dedicated to amplifying marginalized voices, Ray's innovative programming and disciplinary collaborations continue to position her as a leader in the industry. Highlights of her 21-22 season include presentations of works by Black, Indigenous, Hispanic, and women composers. You can see a connection to our Unitarian Universalist values in the heart and spirit of Ray. Two brief comments. I've been blessed in over 47 years of experiencing some incredible cultural and musical high points. And having lived on the East Coast, many of those were in some of the most celebrated halls in New York City. I have to say that on that March 2017 day when Ray auditioned, the sixth and last conductor to audition for the coveted title of Director of Music for the Fresno Philharmonic, was literally one of the greatest and most electric moments in my artistic and performing arts audience history. It was just magnificent. But it wasn't just that moment. She has sustained it through the last years, built up to, and as we just saw this May in the last concert. As I said earlier, Ray is the most embodied conductor I have ever experienced in any genre of music. She physically inhabits the music her orchestra is co-creating with her. Please welcome Ray to the pulpit.
Thank you, Tim. What an introduction. I'm so used to coming up on the podium with a baton, so this is very different for me. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak today. Originally, I was supposed to talk to you all 2 years ago, but of course the pandemic got in the way, and I'm so happy to be here today with you all. Now, as a conductor, I cannot do what I do without my orchestra. And I just want to take a moment to thank Larry Gardner. Yes, it's over there. for his many decades of beautiful music making for the Fresno Philharmonic. He just retired this past season, and we all will miss you very, very much, but lucky that for us that you will be performing us occasionally like he did this week, in the education concerts that we did for 6,000 students, fourth grade students in Soroyan, and all of them have never gone to a classical music concert before, and all of them are from different parts of the city. So we're just really thrilled to do that. So as you can tell, I don't have difficulty speaking from the podium, but it is something that, you know, please forgive me if I'm rambling on today, but I'm really honored to share my thoughts and experiences with you. So the past 2 years and COVID has transformed all of our lives globally. And I thought I would talk about the word resilience. So I discovered this word resilience resonated deeply within me during the past 2 years, and most importantly, in my work as a conductor in the past few seasons. I started reflecting on the music and the arts and how that word resilience permeated the scores I was studying, the pieces I was preparing, the composers I was exploring, and all facets of my work. But the truth of the matter was, I was not working. None of us were. None of the musicians in my orchestra, globally, orchestras were not working. And this was frightening, because this has never, ever happened to us, ever, and to this extent globally. So for almost a year and a half, we were all adapting and finding different ways to perform as artists, being resilient. So I want to share with you what I think how resilience relates to what I do as a music director of the Fresno Philharmonic and as an artist. I also want to incorporate the idea of resilience as reflected through the composers from Gustav Mahler to John Weinglass, and how conflict, the pandemic, and personal setbacks inspire these composers. The conflicts that compelled these composers and artists to create incredible works. And in conclusion, when we value the creative mind, great outcomes are possible, not only in music, but in our life experiences. I truly believe that as artists, we listen to do what we can to build our audience, but also to reach people beyond the score through education, connecting with our communities, and recognizing our supporters, which include many of you here today. And to ensure that through these important partnerships, we grow as artists and strive to make the greatest impact possible on our world around us. So first, the definition of resilience. According to the New Webster Dictionary, resilience is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. In Spanish, the word, I feel, has a little bit of different connotation. La resistencia, which means strength, endurance, toughness. Some say in Japan, I'm Japanese, the Japanese has bred a cultural trait of resilience. And this has happened because natural disasters have happened so many times, which have pummeled the country, and they each time have to come back from this adversity from nature. There is a Japanese doll called the Daruma. I don't know if you're familiar with this big red doll that sometimes you see in stores. It's supposed to bring good luck. And the idea about this Daruma, which is basically a red face, is that it's weighted on the bottom. So you can rock it from side to side, but it never tips over. And this is the symbol of perseverance, of resilience. Throughout these past 2 years, my life as a musician, guest conductor, and music director of the Fresno Philharmonic have transformed dramatically, to say the least. I've had a lot of time to reflect on the effects of the pandemic to not only our organization, but arts organizations around the world. It was really difficult back in March 2020, Larry knows this, to even imagine today how far we have gone and transformed over the past 2 years. Being here in front of all of you, conducting Mahler's First Symphony on May 8th, it seemed like an impossible dream back in 2020 in March. But here we are, and I'm so grateful for it. But more than thankful, I have a new perspective on what I do and how I approach my work. I think we can all agree that through perseverance in our lives and through a different lens, we are really able to transform ourselves through this pandemic. Mostly, I believe my values shifted. First of all, the safety and health of my family and friends became the utmost importance to me. I remember the fear and trepidation of my daughter, who is now 10 years old, going into 3rd grade at that time and shifting from online to in-person. My husband and I were completely tormented about her safety and the safety of others. Then, as soon as I found out that one of our musicians got COVID from the Fresno Philharmonic, I called to check on them to see how they were recovering. In fact, immediately I called all 72 musicians to see how each of them were doing. In those first 6 months of the pandemic, I made it a priority to connect with my players. To me, this engagement on a personal level has done wonders for our relationships on and off the podium, on the stage. Again, I'm so grateful for our connection, and it was something that I was not expecting to happen while we were apart, while we weren't able to perform together. And it took about 9 months to finally gather in person, have our safety protocols in place, to finally physically make music together. And that sound of the first downbeat of Tchaikovsky's Serenade, we were in Shikoyan, and we were only working with string instruments. I mean, I was weeping through my mask. Actually, I was double masked. So how glorious it was to feel and hear those live notes in person. And that connection was what I was missing terribly. And I thought we all felt that way on stage. And as I was reflecting about programming for the music of the Fresno Philharmonic and trying to figure out our future seasons through the pandemic, I thought about the word resilience again. We adapted and we went to digital programming, which I know that a lot of you have engaged in. Thank you for doing that. And we started with small ensembles, chamber groups, and solo. We did all kinds of things, interviews and online concerts. And it was a difficult time because our priority was to keep our musicians employed during this time and for us to stay in front of our audiences and this community. So you must allow me to take a few moments to thank our CEO, Stephen Wilson, who many of you may know, who really was instrumental in keeping the groundwork, the work going on ground here during that time. Yes. And then in May, after George Floyd's murder, subsequent riots, and social injustices, I was extremely affected by these events. I wanted to make it a mission to include many BIPOC composers and marginalized artists to the forefront, something I've been doing in programming. But for me, it became a mission. We highlighted these composers in our digital concerts with the Fresno Philharmonic. I interviewed these wonderful young Black composers in our Stay Tuned series and formed these connections again. It was extremely gratifying, not only to our orchestra, but to our audiences as well. And when you think about it, many past composers and artists have experienced terrible duress, whether it was a world war, illness, or personal suffering. And these composers used these experiences as vehicles to write the most amazing pieces of music. It was Simone Weil, the French philosopher and political activist, who argued throughout her life that knowledge in and of the world demanded rigorous, balanced thinking, even if that difficulty in measurement led the thinker to near impossible tasks. For her, these tasks were were examples of synthesizing perspectives of religious doctrine for her, various traditions like Greek philosophy, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Taoism. She believed knowledge was gained through suffering. That's an interesting perspective that seemed to be a thread in the output of these composers and their incredible works. How is a composer able to extract from within themselves amazing ideas for symphonies using form, texture, instrumentation, harmonies, melodies during a time of conflict and war? For instance, Shostakovich was under extreme oppression from Stalin, or within themselves, like in the case of Tchaikovsky with his sexual identity. What I truly find magical about these compositions is the connections we make with these composers, whether they're living or from 100 years ago. They still speak to us about their suffering, their conflict, and their ability to overcome and be resilient through their music. This is the connection I find truly amazing. So I want to talk about Mahler's First Symphony because we just performed that a couple of weeks ago. And Mahler said, "A symphony must embrace everything, be like the world." So he incorporates in his First Symphony philosophy, art, literature, and a shifting collage, an ever-shifting collage of emotions. And I don't know if many of us know that Mahler's music was actually banned and considered degenerate during the Nazi era. And when we think of these renowned composers, we often think of them and put them on a pedestal without really understanding their background. So as in the case of Gustav Mahler, his upbringing influenced his music profoundly. Mahler was not raised from a wealthy family. We know that his grandmother was a street peddler in Bohemia. Mahler's family belonged to a German-speaking minority among Bohemians, and they were Jewish. And from this background, the composer developed early on a permanent sense of exile. He always felt like an intruder. He never felt welcomed anywhere. His father was an innkeeper, and he married a 19-year-old daughter from a local soap manufacturer. They gave birth to 14 children. The first son died in infancy, and Gustav was the second son. Out of 14 children, only 6 survived infancy. So for most of Mahler's childhood, there would be small coffins exiting the back of his father's tavern business, while drunken patrons would come in through the front door. So Mahler finished conservatory without any awards of outstanding achievement. He enrolled at the University of Vienna, and after leaving Vienna, he became a piano teacher and continued to compose. Well, then he went into conducting. So that's kind of like me. I was a pianist, taught piano, and then went into conducting. And he wrote from a moment right away that he felt that this was what he wanted to do. And then a very famous conductor, Hans von Bülow, came to the court and gave 2 concerts, and Mahler was hoping to, be his assistant. Nope, did not get that job. But he did end up conducting the Leipzig Opera and was very successful at that. But as a conductor, which became his primary job, he was not popular at all with the orchestras he conducted. They resented him, and his rehearsals were very intense. So in 1888, Mahler sketched his first symphony. In 1889, Mahler's father died. The following year, his sister died, and his mother. In 1889, the same year, he took custody of his younger brothers and sisters, all 4 of them. He himself was poor health. He had migraines. He had a heart tremor and was having difficulty with his health. And then the premiere of his first symphony that we just performed happened in 1889, right? All those all those difficult things in his life, he conducted his own premiere. It was a complete failure and a disappointment. The critics lambasted him. The audience got up and started talking during the third and fourth movement because they were so upset about how horrible this music was. Mahler was very distressed because one of his very dear colleagues at the university remarked, like many conductors before him, had proved not to be a composer. Mahler's dictatorial style of conducting was resented, like I said, with all of the orchestras, and he was let go of many positions that he had held. And the anti-Semitic elements in Vienna long opposed Mahler's appointments and continued to attack him and instituted a campaign designed to have him dismissed. And this is when he had finished writing his 8th symphony, the Symphony of 1000. Mahler, exhausted from the campaign, left Vienna and moved away. He had 2 daughters. Both of them fell ill with scarlet fever. Anna recovered and lived a very long life, well into her 80s. But Maria died at the age of 4. And this devastated Mahler. His wife said that his heart condition got much, much worse, and it was a death sentence for Mahler. So during all these difficult years, he was composing some of the most intense and glorious music. And the music critic Harold Schoenberg talked about Mahler's theme of struggle, and he said it was really in the tradition of Beethoven. However, according to Schoenberg, Beethoven's struggles were more of an indomitable and triumphant hero, whereas Mahler's were more of a psychic weakling, a complaining adolescent who enjoyed his misery, wanting the whole world to see how he was suffering. This is a 20th century music critic. Among other composers that Mahler influenced were Leonard Bernstein, Samuel Barber, and Vladimir Ashkenazy, one of my favorite pianists, said, the connection between Mahler and Shostakovich was very strong and obvious. Their music represented the individual versus the vices of the world. The vices of the world. When I think of the top vices of the world, human vices, the one that sticks out for me is anger. We've all experienced that type of anger that leads to hatred, revenge, extreme resentment towards others. This subject really came to a tipping point on May 25th, 2020. At the moment, a police officer in Minnesota murdered George Floyd during an arrest after a store clerk suspected Floyd may have used a counterfeit $20 bill. The African-American composer John Weinglass called me in early June 2020. So John is a very close friend of mine. I met him in Fresno in 2017 when I first became music director. He's a Californian composer, lives in Monterey. A bit background of John's work. His work, Unburied, Unmourned, Unmarked, is a requiem for rice, was dedicated to the lives of millions and numerous contributions of African Americans, forced laborers who cultivated the immense, expansive, and particularly wealthy rice economy in the Low Country. With a libretto by a historian from Carnegie Mellon University, this work took a team of researchers and filmed documentaries to the South Carolina, to the inner villages of Senegal and Gambia, and the world premiere of 6 movements with full chorus was in Washington, D.C., with conjunction with the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture. So he was a composer and artist that I wanted to work with. Now, back to that phone call in June 2020. He told me that he wanted to write a piece that really reflected his emotions, his anger about that incident, about social injustice. He wanted to know if I was interested, if the Fresno Philharmonic was interested in commissioning this work. I immediately jumped on this opportunity and encouraged him to write this work. His voice needed to be heard. We discussed the title and the idea behind the concept of it, like really the length of it and the instrumentation. And his wife came up with a title that inspired him. And it is called Alone Together. And the piece came together through a consortium of orchestras who all wanted to be involved in this composition. I called my friend, who's the conductor of the Pacific Symphony, Carl St. Clair, and John talked to the Monterey Symphony and the San Jose Chamber Orchestra, and we all supported John's vision of this work. And it finally came to fruition. The Fresno Philharmonic premiered the work live and in person last October in 2021. And then in November of 2021, the composer John Weinglass announced that this work was to be chosen to be included in the Library of Congress as part of the Collection for Performing Arts COVID-19 Response Collection. It included creative works and projects nationally by renowned creators, and it was a documentation to create during the pandemic. Again, the word resilience comes to my mind, and how these artists reflected and reacted to life-changing difficulties. These collections of scores and scripts and choreography I'm talking about the Library of Congress, were inspired by quarantine and pandemic works. Now a quote that I'd like to share with you from Klaus Schwab. He's the founder and chairman of the World Economic Forum. The pandemic has brought far-reaching changes. In a world full of uncertainty and tension, personal dialogue is more important than ever. And I truly believe that. Having an open dialogue is more important than ever. Communication with each other is the key to bringing humanity closer together. The arts isn't just a space where we can appreciate and experience beauty. It is a space where thoughts and ideas are born and nurtured. Today, more than ever, I think it's important to have access to the arts, but not just to create an audience and build our audiences for tomorrow, but for building and sustaining the creativity that is so vital to our survival. So, thank you very much.
One, two, three, four.
When you hear the sound of coming and you hear the drummers drumming, I want you to join together with the band. We don't move in particular direction, we don't make no collections. I want you to join together with the band. You really think I care what you read or what you wear? I want you to join together with the band. There's a million ways to laugh, and everyone has got a path. I want you to join together with the band. Join together, I want together, join together. I want you to join together with the band. We need you to join together, join together. Want you to join together with the band. You don't have to play along. You can follow, lead the way. I want you to join together with the band. We don't know where we're going, but the season's right for knowing. I want you to join together with the band. Everybody join together, join together. I want you to join together with the band. Come on and join together, join together. I want you to join together with the band. Come on and join together, join together. I want you to join together with the band. I want you to join together with the band. Come on and join together with the band.
Hola de nuevo. Mi nombre es Adelina. Hello again. My name is Adeline. The Reverend Wayne Arneson, a Unitarian Universalist minister, famously said, "Take courage, friends. The way is often hard, the path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone. We are not alone." The Unitarian Universalist Church has been my spiritual home for the last 27 years. It has provided me the opportunity to grow both spiritually and personally. It has also provided me with a loving community of people who have supported me in my personal life, especially over this last 6 months. Sorry, getting a little emotional, and I am very grateful for that. For these reasons, I choose to give generously to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno. In this spirit, please join me in our words of offering. If not us, then who? If not open hearts, then what? If not now, then when? Then where? If not generously, then how? If not us, then who? If you are on our virtual campus, perhaps this is the moment when you make your first-time contribution. Thank you for that. Here's a slide showing different ways you can share. We will also have baskets at the side doors for those who exit on the Alluvial Ave sanctuary. Those in the sanctuary are also invited to use their smartphones and make a contribution through Cash App at $UU Fresno. That's $UU Fresno. May this church continue to be worthy of the many forms of our gifts.
We lit the chalice at the beginning of our service to remind us of the bountiful blessings that we believe should be bestowed on all. As we extinguish this symbolic flame, both here on Alluvial Ave campus as well as in our virtual campus, Let us remember that belief in the goodness, the potential of human beings, and remember that you are good. You are loved. Let's join Karen and Troy as we extinguish the chalice.
Extinguimos esta llama, pero no la luz de la verdad, el calor de comunidad o el fuego de nuestro compromiso. Estos los llevaremos en el corazón. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts.
Just a few brief reminders before our closing words, and then we rock out with our sung benediction. First, Ray Hotoda, I want to thank you for your presence here today. Thank you for your words, and thank you for the musical joy and uplift and creativity you inspire in the city of Fresno and in California's Central Valley. You are a treasure. Thank you. Just a few quick reminders then. Exiting, we're just going to have our socially distanced folks exit out the doors there, and then we invite the rest of you to follow. There will be a receiving line outside. I'll be there, and Ray, if you're comfortable, please feel free to join me there and let folks say hello. Also, coffee hour is going to be happening, and if you are newer to the church community, this is a perfect way to meet some of the longer-term members, but it also means if you are a longer-term member, you got to talk to people who aren't maybe your best friend, but they might become your best friend if you realize just how fabulous those folks are going to be. Also outside, don't forget that our Mosaic Makers team is asking for your help on deciding the next steps for the 8th principle. 2 weeks ago, we adopted the 8th principle, which makes dismantling white supremacy culture within our congregation and our denomination at large a central piece of our spiritual lives. But we now have the work of figuring out how to do that. For those at the Alluvial Ave campus, stop by the tables in the open area outside, and there's also a form on our virtual campus. This is an important step, and we need everyone's help. Also, join us, there you go, as we march with other affirming and welcoming congregations at this Saturday's Fresno Pride Parade. We're going to gather at 9 a.m. There's parking at Fresno City College, then shuttle buses are going to take us to the start of the parade. Wear festive and rainbow colors. Join us. And also, please remember, vote, vota. Drop your ballot at the drop box on our church campus or drop it in the mail. We create change when we vote. Last but not least, we have a tradition that if this is your first, second, or third time with us, we like to gently welcome you. So if you're on our virtual campus, just type your name into the chat box as you are comfortable. Here on Alluvial Ave, if this is your first, second, or third time with us, I invite you to rise for a moment. We won't leave you standing alone for long. So first, second, or third time with us, please rise. Welcome, 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 welcome. I invite the rest of the congregation to rise with them for our benediction. If you came in a pod, you can join hands. If you didn't come in a pod, we can just take our hands, place them gently over our hearts. Let us go forth and forward with these words of benediction written by my father-in-law, the late Reverend Herbert F. Vedder. May we forever hope in the possibilities of life. May we forever share in the adventures of ideas. May we know peace by not expecting the impossible. And may we know joy through helping what is possible come true. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen.
1, 2, 3, 4. May we have safe passage. Safe passage. May we have safe passage. Safe passage on our way. Safe passage on your way, wanderer. Safe passage on our way, searcher. Safe passage on your way, sweet pilgrim. Safe passage on our way. May we have safe passage. Safe passage. May we have safe passage. Safe passage on our way. Shalom and assalamu alaikum.